Good. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this panel today. I'm really excited and grateful for this opportunity because we worked so hard during the year, this year in 2023 and 2022 with these fantastic organizations, ORT and Aletheia, in order to bring social emotional learning into their schools. And I'd like just to start by saying a few words about 6 Seconds. I am Ilaria Boffa, as you can see, and I work at 6 Seconds. I have been working at 6 Seconds for 10 years, almost 10 years now. And our organization is a global nonprofit organization, and we are present all over the world. And I, in particular, work in the region of Europe, and I'm education and community manager. And our main goal is really practicing emotional intelligence in different domains. And everything actually started in education. So our vision is really having people using their emotions and the messages that emotions are conveying and bringing to us in order to improve their own life, but also to use this in the field where they work, in their professional and personal life, and in particular with educators. So we started really years ago in the 70s trying to transform the curriculum in schools. And so what we started doing was to work with teachers and educators in order to create something that could support teachers in their job. And today, nowadays, still we are in this very big noble goal, we call it. And what we want to immediately say is that social and emotional learning, and so this process of integrating emotional intelligence and the skills of emotional intelligence for teachers, for students, for the parents in schools, is not something that we want to add to the plate of our teachers, of our educators, of our consultants. It's something that is actually the plate. So is the place and is the how we can teach, how our students will learn, how our educators can actually teach their own subject. So the idea is not adding something more, is not overwhelming our educators by introducing something else that they need to add to their programs. Absolutely not. What is relevant to say is that social and emotional learning programs are really something that research is keeping into account. A lot of programs around the world have been developed, and these programs are usually 3 years. 3-year program, and research as this one that is probably the most important research, the Darlach and Weisberg research, says that when you introduce in your school programs of social emotional learning, also academic results improve, and retention, so the risk of drop out of students, the retention increases and dropout is reduced. And a lot of pro-social behaviors can be shared, not only among the students, but also among the educators and the parents, so the whole community. And these pro-social behaviors are also able to reduce bullying. So social emotional learning are, for us, these kind of programs are a way to raise and create citizens that are actually compassionate, tolerant, and responsible. So not only the content is relevant, but the process of becoming citizens. This is what we would love to see in our schools. Our schools then nowadays are really, really living a very, very peculiar moment. And I think all of you, and you probably in the chat, you can confirm, but this new world of technology, of selfies. That is fantastic. Think of ChatGPT, think of artificial intelligence. They could be fantastic tools. The problem is that if we do not convey these tools in the right way, our students can be really distracted and their critical thinking can be compromised. So we absolutely need to manage this problem, this process. And we, as educators, are the protagonists. That's why 6 Seconds want us, educators, teachers, education consultant, working in education, being the leaders. We need to be the ones that can support our students in using these tools for the better. We also experience context of degradation, polarization. We had early this year, and I don't know if Olena Bernikova is here with us today, but she shared, she is one of our social and emotional learning specialists. She lives in Kiev, and she shared how relevant it is nowadays, now for them in Ukraine, this message of hope, of EQ, that students can and educators can use in the classroom. And that's why we at 6 Seconds, we decided to really work for the educators, for the teachers. And we designed and developed the EQ Educator program. And the two organizations, ORT and Aletheia, that will contribute to this panel, will share with you, is a program that is meant for this. It starts from the educators, increasing their own emotional intelligence, and then support them to design lessons with emotional intelligence and provide them with social and emotional learning lessons. So this is the goal of this program. And at the core, of course, there's emotional intelligence. And again, for us, emotional intelligence is simply this sentence: being smarter with feelings. For 6 Seconds means being aware of our emotions, learning how to use the emotional messages that we receive, and then go into action, using our feelings together with our thoughts and our action to make more sustainable choices. This is what we really would love to see in the classroom. And to do this, we support our teachers and educators to ask themselves first these questions: what am I feeling? And so then what my students are feeling? What options do I have? What emotional options do I have? And what they have? And together, as a classroom, as a school, what do we truly want? What do we want to achieve in the end? We just want to tell them and provide them with content. Well, they could find it online, right? What's the role of the school? What's the role of educators today? And what's the role of our classroom? What's the role of learning and teaching? That's why in this program, the educators will have access to our 6 Seconds sub-science called sub-science curriculum. As I said, a set of lessons that they can immediately use in their own classroom. And so a set of lessons, a program, actually a social and emotional learning program that they can integrate. And this was the dream of our founder, Annabelle Jensen, who first wrote the sub-science curriculum in the 70s with Karen McCown. And the reference to this science, social emotional learning curriculum, you can find it in the book of Daniel Goleman. It's one of the chapters of his book, famous bestseller book, Emotional Intelligence. So in a way, we are making her, happy in still working and developing this program. And in this program, and I'm sure ORT and Aletheia will mention this, our idea is to achieve some of the Sustainable Development Goals. And in particular, for 6 seconds, our aim, since we are action partners of the UN, we want to achieve the number 3 good health and well-being for teachers, for people working with us, the quality in education. And of course, we want to do this through also through the EQ Educator program, and then through partnerships for the goal. So number 17, and that's why ORT and Aletheia were involved by us during this year and last year. Finally, I just want to mention that 6 Seconds is also partnering with UNICEF. And since years, we are bringing these fantastic activities, the pop-up festival activities that you can find on our website, 6seconds.org/pop-up. And they are very, very simple activities that every school in the world can download, and also parents, families in the world can download. They are free. They were first designed during for the Children's Day, Universal Children's Day on November 20th, and then we extended this availability for every day, every year, for everyone, and they are free. So after this introduction about our organization and why the EQ Educator program has been designed, I'd like immediately to ask why starting a social and emotional learning program to Eric from ORT. And so I leave him to introduce himself, your organization, Eric, and the why.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ilaria. It's a pleasure to be here today with you and with the other organizations. So yeah, maybe just to introduce myself first. I'm education project manager at ORT. ORT is basically an international network of schools. We deliver programs related to STEM, to science and technology, across a network of schools in Latin America, across Europe, South Africa, across a few Asian countries, and in Israel. The organization has been around since 1880, where basically the organization was helping to train Jewish farmers to help them to sort of upgrade their skills when it became necessary at that time. And since then, so about 140 years, ORT has been needing to adapt and sort of change with the times. And now, existing in, over 40 countries, delivering programs in entrepreneurship, different STEM programs. There's various summer schools looking at nature conservation. If we move to the next slide, in 2020, there was a strategic review, and from sort of senior level, it was recognized that there was a need to introduce some new projects looking at things like mental health. And as part of that review, the idea came for a new program based on global citizenship. So that's GCE, is Global Citizenship Education. And last year, we launched the program, and that meant introducing different aspects, working with students, working with teachers, looking at these 3 key areas. So the cognitive, which is sort of looking at global issues, what is happening in the world, how can we understand the different perspectives on the issues that are, that we are seeing play out on the global stage. But then, there's also the socio-emotional aspect, which is very important. How do we feel? How do we relate to others with different perspectives? How do we communicate? How do we hold dialogue, to reach peaceful solutions? And then thirdly, behavioral, which is, how do we actually then create solutions? How do we move forward once we have created connection? How do we then act? How do we then tackle the issues that we see in the world? And so we created a vision for the Global Citizenship program. And this meant, introducing new experiences, training courses, project-based learning, And we had various events with students looking at particular global issues, we were speaking with refugees, we looked at world water issues, we had the students internationally meeting together to discuss global issues. But we recognized that it was really important to have this socio-emotional aspect focused on as well. And I came across 6 Seconds through the great work that they do, and obviously being an international network, the international nature of so I think we can probably move to the next slide. The sort of international nature of 6 Seconds work was really fitting with the way that ORT is, working across different cultures. And we had found as well that through some forums throughout the pandemic period, a lot of teachers, so I'm not a teacher myself, I work with the schools, but the teachers came to a forum about mental health, and they were saying that the students through the pandemic were really struggling to express their emotions. There were, lots of different issues that were coming up, and the teachers themselves were not feeling very well prepared to handle these intense emotions, fights, things like that were happening. And so as part of global citizenship, we, working with 6 Seconds, reached out to the schools and offered trainings at EQE 1 and 2 to the schools, and there was a lot of interest in taking that up. And yeah, we took 14 teachers through that program, and essentially the goal was to empower the teachers so that they could bring EQE EQ tools into the classrooms, and feel more empowered when dealing with the students' emotions and being able to navigate these different situations. And so yeah, we're really pleased with how that went. And so just, what's the last slide? Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe that's all for now. We'll obviously hear from Eduardo, who did the training, later on. But yeah, thank you.
Yes, sorry, I was just reaching my bar and unmuting myself. Yes, thank you so much. I just want to add that really these kind of partnerships with ORT, and then now we will hear from Larissa how she put us 6 Seconds in contact with Aletheia. But we are looking for those kind of partnerships, in the sense that working with this kind of organizations that really can extend the impact, because Eric really reached out to these teachers all around the world in different countries. And so the idea was absolutely to have the possibility to extend, right, the social emotional learning impact. And again, for us, it was one of our UN SDG goal to achieve. So thank you so much, Eric, for this super project that was global citizenship and including us in your pathway. So let me continue, and I think Larissa, now you can introduce the project and why also you bring in Aletheia.
Oh, well, it was, my journey with 6 Seconds started really long time ago. I was just thinking about it. Started back in 2013, and it started in the corporate world. By that time I was in Dubai, and I stayed with 6 Seconds for all these years, and I've always been fascinated by how 6 Seconds methodology is really able to make things practical. So I really loved how you put it, Ilaria, at the beginning. It's not adding to the plate, but actually EQ and then social emotional learning is the plate, and it helps and enables people to reach performance if we talk about corporate, but it enables students, teachers to feel at home when they are also at school. So back in 2019, I decided that it's great to do EQ workshops in corporate, but my calling, it kind of felt like being in education. So I really shifted my attention to the schools in Romania, and I realized that applying and putting to practice social emotional learning, it's a systemic matter. So you cannot do it in silos, but it really needs to be embedded at all levels in the work with the youth, but in the work with teachers, in the work with the management of schools, and in the work with parents, ultimately. So that's how I got into Aletea. And briefly, Aletea is a private school in Romania, and I'll focus more on why I chose to work with Aletea, or better, why they chose me as well. But Aletea is one of those schools that had already elements of social emotional intelligence, social emotional learning blended into how they were approaching things. So they work with the youth in that manner, but they also work with other schools, and they have lots of different programs that enable communication with parents, with with the management, and also with other schools. And yes, their campus and their playground is just absolutely spectacular. So I'd like you, if possible, to go to the next one, because I think that one is really, really important. Why EQ Educator at Aletea? This is the question that I'd like to really answer here. I think that when I first had the conversations with the school, we didn't really have a plan put out there. We said, let's see what is 6 seconds all about, and why a social emotional learning program at Aletea. And I think that the school really had the ingredients for a solid integration. And later on, I'd like to speak, and you'll see with Andrea, we will talk more about actually integration. But the school really had a curiosity for new. So while they were doing things that were integrating social and emotional learning, they were curious to know what are best practices. And I think only when you are curious, you can really bring new types of learning. Then the teachers, I was quite impressed when we started. We started also with 12 teachers. They were super receptive. They were really, and obviously Andrea is one of them, but everyone really receptive, not just open to understand the concepts at an intellectual level, but they were taking time outside of their time at school, and we would often meet outside their working hours and just really explore different things, which I thought was quite amazing. Then also, I think why EQ Educator at Aletea, because Aletea, through its founder and through the management, they are really promoting a culture of possibility. So it's not like, yeah, we know it. And sometimes you find places where, yeah, we know, we do it, we've got what we need, but they really promote a culture of possibility. Okay, what's new? And I found that it was quite interesting. The teachers that I was working with, they were really interesting to understand the trends and the novelty in terms of the neuroscience of learning. And I think that's quite powerful to really want to, you mentioned at the beginning, the era of social media. And I think it was quite interesting to see how the teachers and the management at Aletea were instilling that culture of possibility by actively wanting to use what good comes with social media. And then last but not least, one of the learning philosophies of 6 seconds is the process is the content. And this is something that I truly believe Aletea displays consistently. And we were not that preoccupied, and we didn't even know at the beginning that we would go up to EQ Educator 3, and then we would still continue to do lots of things. We just started like one step at a time, and we just knew that we really want to do cool things together. And then EQ Educator came as a natural step in the process. And so we did one. And I remember that it was with your help that we were able to do it, because we were doing both English and Romanian, if you remember it.
Absolutely.
And we took it one step at a time. And I think that's critical. The process is the content. It was not just what's the outcome and getting some certifications from a renowned organization. It was more like, okay, we are in it, let's go. And then let's see how this evolves.
Thank you, Larissa, and thank you for reminding us about the translation process. So we delivered through you, Larissa. Larissa is one of our social and emotional learning specialists. I was the teacher, the facilitator, actually, and Andrea was there, but we needed a translation. And so Larissa and I, we co-facilitated that EQ Educator 1, 2, and then 3. So all the 3 levels. And this is also something that is possible, feasible, and also enriching. Europe is a very, very complex continent. We have multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple complexities, and so working together we can definitely overcome this, and with a little bit of compassion towards ourselves and our mistakes, our sometimes resistances or whatever, we made it. And we were absolutely grateful at that time, and still that Aletea and Andrea is representing that the school today, decided to go into this process that was not easy. So thank you, Larissa, and let's go towards our teachers, and so listening to their experiences. And so why Eduardo and Andrea should teacher actually attend social and emotional learning programs, and what kind of applications you could share with people today. So Eduardo, I think I can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Before I start, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
This, okay.
Loud and clear.
So I try to be as straightforward as possible. So why attend? When we had our first session, it was all about self-knowledge, to better understand yourself, understand emotions, how to deal with them, because this is the same struggle that kids have in school. They don't know how to recognize their emotions, separate them from one and another, deal with them, and go forward. And this is something that nobody teaches you. This is something that some people learn through their lives and some people ignore. But we don't teach this to our kids. Parents don't teach them to their sons. So I think the first thing is get insight from yourself, from what you can learn from your emotions, and from the insight you get self-knowledge. You better understand yourself, and when you understand yourself, you are capable of helping others to understand themselves. And something that we've been paying attention that after the pandemic took a toll on everybody, and especially our students. They're too young to understand half of the things that are happening around them, and being trapped inside their houses, learning through a computer, watching their friends through a computer screen, really took a toll on their mental health. And this is something that we were watching when we were returning to the real life activities. And their kids, they're very let me find the best word here. Very affected by it. We are seeing kids with high levels of anxiety and high levels of fear. They don't know how to navigate the real world. They lost social skills that they were developing when the pandemic hit. So we have the normal, common issues that arise when you're growing up, mixed with this new reality of the pandemic and going to learning in your house and coming back to school, and everything is mixed. It's like an explosive mixture.
And Eduardo, sorry to interrupt you, because I think this point is really relevant. Do you think that also for yourself, increasing your self-awareness in terms of emotional literacy, so being able to communicate with your students with more emotional words, and also recognizing your patterns, has been something that supported them in this journey somehow?
Sure. I can give you a real example, because one of the things that I can detect in our students is frustration. They are presented with new knowledge and they don't understand, and they start to get frustrated, and they are not able to accomplish some tasks, and then they drop everything. They don't deliver homework and everything. So this kind of training really helped me to have a different look into each one of my students. So I have these years being more challenging than the others, because I have 2 students that have severe problems with attention span. So they have attention disorders. And it's been very difficult for them to understand the content, absorb it, and go on. So this really helped to recognize them, what their struggle, and sit down with them and ask better questions for them, so they can explain it to me and create a bond with them, so I can find better strategies for them. So it really helped me to better understand my students in this way. So that's why I put connection and student and teacher relationship, because usually there's no connection at all. The teacher comes into class, give the content, homework, and off he goes. And the same for the students. He goes into class, take notes, and off he goes. But
and please, Eduardo, you teach in high school, right? So
yes,
it's important also, because high schools really, it's probably very different than primary school. In primary school, probably this connection is still existent. So there's all the teachers are very connected with the little children. But in high school, it's a completely different story, right?
Yeah, and we also, parents, everybody also expects that then they grow up, you have to mature, you have to take responsibility, and everything's mixed in this bag. So the training really helped to better understand how do I deal with frustration? What do I do? So I can then identify my students that are dealing with the same things. So let's sit down, let's have a conversation. Let's find some pathways that you can navigate, which one is best for you, which one is easier. And then you try to restart everything and try again. That's the point. And it's a work in progress, of course, but it really helped. So I think the practical, I think I covered the why attend and practical in the first slide. So I didn't want to make a lot of slides. So that's it.
Absolutely.
Can we go forward?
Absolutely. The practical application, I think, right?
So practical application also improving class design, because you have to take into account every single one of your students. Usually the teacher prepares a standard class to attend to the average student, but it's different now, because the average, if you are only thinking on the average, you're going to neglect those that are outside the average. And I'm using average here as a practical term also, but there
because you teach science.
Yes. Yeah. But the average here is only as a practical term to better, let me
identify
take
the problem.
yes,
I perfectly
identify.
understand. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's true. Actually, it's true. We tend to neglect the kind of wings, right?
Yes,
Those who
the
were really
outliers.
left, exactly, the outliers, the bad performers that usually maybe you say, well, they are very good, so it's fine. I need to focus on the average of my classroom. Sometimes, I mean, could be especially in high school. So absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes you have a really good students that have perfect grades, but they struggle in class. So,
absolutely.
and outside of class, maybe he's not struggling with academic problems, academic subjects, but he's struggling on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
And these things also helps to understand and to better navigate the realm of students. Sometimes I like to wander around them, see what they're talking about, because these things give us clues to how we're going to behave inside our classroom. So I think in terms of applications, improve class design, thinking about everyone, not the average, and to understand when to move forward and step back, meaning, can I go forward with this subject, or maybe I have to go back, check with the students what they are feeling, did they understand, did they not understand? Because sometimes we are very focused on the planning. What did I plan for the year? What did I plan for the week? Because we have that final goal at the end of the year, but sometimes you have to forget about it, because when you just thinking about planning, you forget about who is the planning for. The planning are for the students, not for yourself.
Exactly.
And again, build a two-way relationship. The students must be comfortable with you, to talk with you, to say, listen, I'm having problems here. I need you to reorganize things for me. So I think these are the main three points for applications of this kind of training.
Thank you, Eduardo, and thank you, Elke, for your question. We will gather all the questions and ask Eduardo and Andrea to answer those at the end. So I think I could move on and let Andrea, I think now, introducing why social emotional learning program for her as a teacher in Aletheia.
Hello, Ilaria. Hello, everyone, and thank you for letting us be here present with you. So I put myself this question from the very beginning. When Larissa came up at the very beginning in Aletheia, I was asking myself, why attending this program? And my answers at that point were out of curiosity, first of all, because this is our nature here, not only mine, but also my colleagues' nature. And second of all, and this I'm talking also in name of the group of colleagues that we attended the program with, it came as an answer, as a confirmation that what we were previously doing out of intuition somehow, was exactly what it was supposed to be. So at the very beginning, these were the questions and the answers that were going on in our minds.
Yeah,
but
Andrea,
after that,
sorry to interrupt you, but again, this is a very, very important point, because we are not here to say that teachers are not, considering emotions in their job while teaching and while working with children. Absolutely not. And we are not here to tell them, well, you know what, through the EQ Educator, you will then change your style of teaching. Absolutely. As for you, Andrea, you simply confirmed your good practice and maybe enriched your good practice with something. Exactly. So just
not maybe, definitely.
So adding something, integrating something, and giving maybe considering the whole picture and a global vision, let's say.
Exactly.
So, thank you.
Exactly.
Andrea.
So now the answer at this question, if at the beginning were those two things, is that we have now in mind very clear things, starting from the global goal that we keep in mind that we are very concerned about quality education, not quantity education. Okay. And we had in mind these things like adaptability to diverse typologies of students, because we also have a very diverse palette of students, and we have to be very careful every day to be flexible as teachers to the changes within the same group of students. What I want to emphasize here is, probably it happened to you too. I'm a teacher of foreign languages. I teach French and also English in secondary school, but I also have groups in primary school. And the challenge that we have here is that sometimes the same audience, the same class, is completely different from 1 hour to the other. Okay, so as a teacher, we learned how to be flexible and how to switch together with their, I don't know, moods or emotions, and to navigate together with them. Then,
and Andrea, this is not only due to the subject, most probably is also due to the teacher. So you as leaders, as role models in the classroom, you can definitely change the approach of our students during the lesson.
That was the point, exactly, that we notice them. We now have the ability to discern and recognize the patterns, their patterns, and then we are able to act accordingly. So we know very well each class, we know very well the children, their typology, and we are able to adapt our teaching techniques in order to get the best results for each and every situation. Okay, and I don't want to miss to exercise optimism. In what way? As an enable for successful academic performance. And if we go forward in the following slide, I will explain exactly what I mean, because we started applying this program with having in mind the fact that we are here a community, and we applied it also we started applying it in class, but then given the fact that it was a systemic problem that needed collaboration, we took the whole community, and also we implied the parents, but I will take them step by step and explain a little bit. So when we started applying the program in class, we wanted to understand the problems, the issues that our students were facing. And we identified that one of the most striking of them was their attitude towards effort, academic effort, generally speaking. And we worked with them and identified their relationship with effort. Because everybody says, okay, it's difficult to do this or it's difficult to do that. But what we wanted to understand is what lays behind this. And why is for you or you and the other difficult to do, for example, because one of the examples very, very oftenly noticed was the effort towards doing their homework. And they explained each and every why this is a very difficult task. Another big effort that we identified is the pressure to take high grades at the main subjects. And we wanted to solve this, of course, not to reduce the quality of education, but to change the way our students were seeing this pressure, okay? And learning not for high grades, but learning because it helped them develop. Another example of, let's say, effort mentioned by our students was the morning routine of waking up and coming to school. It was a very difficult thing that put us in challenge because they were coming late, they were interrupting classes, yes. And of course, we discussed a lot about things we can do in order to improve that. And here we implied the whole community of students, their colleagues, and we navigated through emotions, trying to make them not to be as critical towards those who were in a big distress of coming in time at school, but also educating those students who are always late or from time to time late, not to interrupt the flux of the others anymore. So it was a collaboration. And okay, having the hook of the word collaboration, I would go to the following slide and talk a little bit about the application with parents. After identifying the big efforts that our students were facing, we realized that without the aid of the community of parents, we are not going to reach the good results in a good timing. So we decided to create some workshops where parents were invited, and we took part in these workshops together, and we worked together, and the parents told us what was happening in their families, and we were telling parents what is happening in our class with the same kids that were completely different, okay, home from school. And we worked together a plan that we implemented and started to do it on a regular basis. And the examples that you can see here on the screen and came out of our collaboration during these workshops were the fact that the parents understood that it's very, very useful to avoid comparing their children when it comes to the grades they get, because parents were very open and told us that yes, from time to time they do this, or very often they do this. They ask, okay, what about your colleague? What was the grade that he or she took? Then clarifying expectations. What do I mean by that? So avoiding telling their children, okay, you have to do this because I tell you so. No. Let me tell you something else. If you do your homework on your own, without asking my help or without any other, I don't know, key helps, I'm gonna let you do this or that. I'm gonna let you out with your friends, or I'm gonna let you play on video games 1 hour, or I'm gonna let you have a pajama party, and so on and so forth. Then another point that we succeeded in pointing out and clarifying was to make children part of the same team. And I'm talking here both of us teachers and from the point of view of parents, okay? Instead of saying, okay, you took a very, very low grade at maths, for example, let's shift to another kind of language to the kid, to the young children. Let ask them, how do you feel about the fact that your grade was not great at all. What do you suggest that we can do together? How can I help you? Help me by telling me, how do you think that it would be useful for you that I, as a teacher, or I, as a parent, can help you achieve a better grade next time? And the last one was a very funny one, because the parents came with a lot of creative solutions, and we came to the conclusion that everybody has a corner of confidence or a corner of rules. Here in Aletea, from the very beginning, our classes are designed especially for the primary school, but also adapted for the secondary one in a very specific way. In every class, there is a corner. We call it the corner of confidence, or the corner of reading, or the corner of rules, where kids know that there's a safety place where they can go with their teacher and talk about the challenges that they have during, or with our counselors. It happens that our counselors can come during the hours and talk with them, yes, when they have this challenge. And parents said, wow, this is a great idea. Let's take it and implement it at home as well. And they came with, I don't know, feedback and told us what happened there. But, okay, I'm a doer more than a speaker. So, Ilaria, I have a surprise. Let me ask you, is the moment where I can introduce my surprise? May I?
Absolutely, you can go. You can introduce your surprise now, and then we will go for the final recommendations. Yes,
I will tell you immediately what's going on. So instead of talking a lot about what this program that you provided for us helped us, let me introduce you some of my wonderful students. Yes, that are the definition of two of your learning philosophies. They are the definition of fish don't talk about water, because the three of them, you know, came out of their comfort zone more than you can imagine. And they are the living example of 1, 2, 3 pasta, which means, okay, let's do it. Let's prove that we don't fear anymore. And it's all about confidence and trust. So let me introduce you, okay?
Hello.
Hi,
Christian. Have a seat, Christian.
Thank you.
Hi, Christian.
Here.
Hello.
Maya.
Hi.
Yeah.
And
Hi, hello.
Maya.
Hi.
Woo. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, what do you want to tell us?
I would like to tell you a story that symbolizes the 1, 2, 3 pasta quote. One time I went in the cafeteria and I ate. That's it. Another time I was elected by my English teacher to be part of the CWMUN experience in the New York, in the Big Apple, the New York City. I gladly accepted the invite. There was one problem though. I was the only boy in a group of talkative girls. And why was I out of my comfort zone? Well, it was because I was used to having at least another boy in a team with me at the big or small project, depends. So I took my responsibility to break the ice in the group and talk more than them.
And you succeeded?
Yes, I succeeded.
Amazing. Go for it.
And this is why this story is the living or embodiment of the 1, 2, 3 pasta quote, because I just did it. So
amazing, amazing. And Christian, for me, hearing you saying I went with 1, 2, 3 pasta is already, for me, you made my day, you know, because really this is one of our learning philosophy principles, and hearing this from you is fantastic. So thank you, Christian.
you. Now I would like to present my.
Yeah.
So hi.
Hi.
First, I'd like to say that at Aletheia, the teachers provide us with different interactive ways that not only help us evolve in academical terms, but also in social terms. We make friends this way while learning. And I was also a student selected for MUN New York, and it's safe to say that it was stressful at first, but I was always reassured by my classmates and teachers. They helped me overcome my worst moments, and now I feel like we're a family. We've all evolved together in our own separate ways, but we managed to become better people nonetheless. We've written speeches such as these ones, and we've joked around, we've become friends, and I think we should thank our teacher, Andrea, for making sure that we collaborated in such a way that helped our bonds. Now, I'd like to present to you the other Maya.
Thank you, Maya 1, and now we have Maya 2.
Hi, so I'm Maya 2, if you can call me like that. And for me, the thing that helped me the most was also MUN. Because to be honest, I didn't really like talking to people at all, because they just threatened me, because they were new people. I didn't know how they would think and how they would understand me, or I don't know how I acted. And maybe that was really different or weird for them. And the thing that helped me were my teachers, Adriana and Andrea, that helped me get out of my shell and be myself. And I didn't know there was a name for it, but right now, because Andrea told us, there is a name for it, and that's it. 1, 2, 3 pasta, and fish don't talk about water. And it's a matter of trust, and our teachers were like our security net, and they help us, me and other students, be the best version of themselves. And that is why I think this helped us a lot. And now Andrea, back to Andrea.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you so much. Thank you for these testimonials, because
Well,
you know,
it was on the spot. And why we're talking about safety net, because I told them yesterday, it was my idea, and I asked them, would you come with me? And they said yes. And then, oh my God, I've got I don't know what. And they came up with fears, but in the end, all of them are here, and we support each other. And these are the things that create what we call a social emotional learning way of living together, because education is a way of living, definitely.
Thank you, Andrea, for this example, and also it's a way to show how role modeling is important. So your students, and I'm sure Eduardo's students and all the other teacher students, they learn from you and from the parents involved that adults can collaborate and create new spaces of learning, and where 1, 2, 3 pasta, that means go for it, go into action, is possible, and going beyond our comfort zone. So just to allow all of you, Eduardo, Andrea, Eric, and Larissa, to share with our participants also some recommendations to conclude what could be really important for people who are here today to hear from you, how they could approach social and emotional learning, why bringing social and emotional learning to their schools, or if they are consultants, what they could start, from where they could start. So let me go to the next slide, and I think Eric, Eric, I think.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thanks to everybody. It's been really, really interesting to hear about, how your experience has been. I guess just very briefly, obviously, from my perspective, we've been working with different schools rather than Aletea working with a group of teachers in one school. We've been working with different schools with one or maybe two teachers from those different schools. So I think for anybody who's sort of a large organization working across different countries, different cultures, maybe thinking about who are the right people to be trained, how is that information going to be spread? Do you want to to encourage the teachers, or you want to look at more senior levels? Because I know obviously the training program does start from that level, and then eventually looks at the whole school approach. So yeah, I think maybe that's what I would say, to think about what's the trajectory and who are the right people to focus on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Larissa.
So for me, I would say I'll try to be also brief. The 3 points, the first 3 points are mainly things that I would offer as a place to look at for consultants considering to do work in education. And I would say that the first one, no way is the way. So sometimes you can think that it's best to start in a school with a diagnostic and then see what is the climate, and then you start to do the work from there. But no way is the way. Sometimes you just need to start with a pilot group of people who really believe in it, and then they will then further talk about it, and then they will become your cheerleaders and therefore supporters for the next step. So no way is the way. So probably not having preconceived ideas of I know what I need to do in a school or in an institution. And then integration takes time, and I think if we would have had more time, I would have liked to speak more about it maybe next time. But integration really takes time, and I think every person that you interact with has a story to tell, and not everybody integrates at the same speed. So I think as a consultant looking into education, it's really important to look at your own agenda of what you try to achieve, but also look at the agenda of the people you are working with and really try to meet halfway and see the support that is needed by each participant in a program, rather than just, this is what I'm going to do, done, delivered, let's measure. And I think the process is the content. And I think I said it before, sometimes is not just about we start here and we get there because we have to, but it's just taking that route of curiosity. And I think being a consultant in education, it's more about, okay, what are the areas where together we can achieve more, and what is really the impact that we want to have. When we started, we thought, let's do some EQ work with teachers, but actually we ended up, as you've seen Andrea talking, also working with parents, which I think is quite interesting. And I think quick 3 points, and these are places that I would invite teachers to look into, and those would be the importance of practicing EQ before teaching it. I feel like it's really important to really step into yourself, learn it for yourself, and only then go out there and confidently sharing it and giving it to others. And for me, it was an aha moment as a person, even though I've done this for quite some years. But the difference between teaching versus educating, I think you can teach a subject, but you educate a human being. So when you step in your classroom, regardless of the topic you are teaching, think about that your scope is so much wider. You are educating a human being. So it's almost like, those questions, mind over heart, heart over mind, that should not be, because they both come together for optimal performance. I think it's the same. Teaching is not the opposite of educating. They go both hand in hand, and hence I think the topic of today, educating mind and heart, And the 5 minutes rule, I'd like to bring it back and to the loop that you started, which is, for me, the biggest thing was when working with teachers is that they realize this is not an additional topic. This is not something that they need to now start to add classes in their yearly calendar. But this is like, we called it somehow with Andrea, the 5 minutes rule. It can be maybe at the beginning of the class when you read the moods of the students and you realize that even though you are set to teach, you won't be achieving your results because the mood isn't there. So how can you then insert something that is really social emotional to get everyone in? Or maybe towards the end, rather than dragging a class where children don't have attention anymore, how can you maybe then stop the teaching 5 minutes earlier and make sure everyone, you know, before they jump out of the class, they stay connected? So I would say, rather than recommendations, these are my learnings from this journey. And these are places that I would invite both consultants and teachers, and why not even the other stakeholders in education to look into. I hope this was
absolutely
useful.
Parents. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, all of you. And Eduardo, Andrea, I don't know if you want to share final thoughts and recommendations to your colleagues, so to teachers and maybe also to parents.
Oh, sure. You can.
I think, sorry, let me stop sharing so we can see you better.
Yeah, I think my main advice is to start as early as possible. Because I like to see the school as a big, heavy train. And once the train is in motion, it's very difficult to stop it. So as soon as you start with training, involving as many people as possible, the better. Because once you realize something is wrong during the middle of the school years, maybe it's too late to act. I think that the two lessons: start soon and involve as many people as possible.
Thank you, Eduardo. Andrea.
Not only for me, but also for my colleagues, it was very helpful because it made us aware of who we were and where we were. We were very attentive to our students, and as Larissa said, it was not a matter about trying to go forward with our academic goals, but to be very careful that the teaching would not attain the final point if the audience was not prepared to. And now, as a teacher, I personally learned to find that Kaizen, yes, that achieving
the right moment in time.
Exactly, at the right moment in time and by small steps. But you have to have the strength to believe and the willingness to believe that everybody, even the slower of our students, will succeed. That makes the difference. So,
thank you so much. I think that if we can summarize somehow, you all said one thing, and I learned from you, and that probably this is what we need to highlight the most, is that really emotions drive learning. And when we say one of our principles is emotions drive people, but definitely emotions drive learning. And we learned during the program and today with you that really while sharing your experiences, definitely you told us, well, also sharing emotions, increasing self-awareness, and then managing the emotions of our students, role modeling through this way of implementing social and emotional learning, probably this will improve the world of education, and then will impact the whole world, hopefully. And so I just want to thank you all. I don't see other questions. I think Elke, Andrea, and Eduardo answered your question, Eduardo, in the chat, and Andrea right now, about what changed for you as teachers. And so I just want to thank you all again for this contribution. That was amazing. And I hope maybe we will have other panels, even with you, with students. That would be fantastic. And in order to learn more of your future impacts in the world. So thank you, all of you. And goodbye.
Thank you.
And please just put in the chat maybe your emails, so
Sure.
people can contact us. Let's put our emails, and so please do not hesitate to contact Andrea for Aletheia, Eduardo for ORT, if you just want to share, I think, some experience, and of course, Larissa, Eric, and myself, if you want to know more about programs and activities that we can run in different countries and in different settings using emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.